If you've been researching golf simulators and suddenly feel like the PC side got way more confusing than it used to be, you're not imagining it. Graphics cards have changed, availability has changed, and pricing has very much changed. So let's slow this down. I want to explain why this is happening, what actually matters for simulator performance, and how we're thinking about PCs going forward. Before we go any further, it's worth explaining why graphics cards are even the focus of this conversation, because this is where really the majority of the cost and confusion comes from when it comes to PCs. In a golf simulator PC, the graphics card is doing a majority of the work. It's responsible for rendering the golf course, the lighting, the shadows, the textures, really anything that actually is seen on the screen in real time and adds to that level of immersiveness of the simulated experience. Every single frame is being generated by the GPU. The CPU still matters, the processor, but it's mostly handling background logic and data. The GPU is what's determining how smooth the experience feels, how realistic it looks, and how well the system holds up as software gets more demanding. When you're talking about a virtual simulated experience, the realism is the key detail in how immersive everything feels. So this is also why the GPU conversation keeps changing over time. Simulator software is extremely dynamic. Platforms like one of our best sellers, GSPro, keep constantly improving visuals. Projectors are getting sharper. People want higher frame rates, smoother ball flight, less lag in the actual ball flight. All of that just puts more and more emphasis and load on the graphics card performance as a whole. And when the GPU can't keep up, the biggest issue that people start noticing is really laggy shots. You swing, you make contact, instead of the ball taking off smoothly, you see frames skipping, stuttering. So there's some hesitations before the ball actually flies. It's not a good experience. It looks choppy, it feels very disconnected. And once you notice it, it's just really kind of annoying. So really, when the GPU can keep up, everything feels smooth, it feels immediate, it feels more realistic. That's why we're talking about this today. When the GPU can't keep up, you get that stuttering, you get frame drops, you get ball flight that just doesn't look right. And that's why the graphics card ends up being, in our opinion, the single most important component to a golf simulator PC. And this is why we're talking about this today. So Nvidia has a product called the RTX 4070Ti. This kept coming up for us, especially over the last year, and when we were continuously speccing out golf simulator PCs and which ones we actually recommend, this was the graphics card that we continuously landed on over and over again. It just worked well, smooth simulated experience, worked with high-res projectors, really didn't have any performance issues at all. And the value was there. So for most home simulator usage, it just felt like a really good balance. You weren't paying for over-the-top, unneeded power, and you weren't really teetering on the edge of minimum performance recommendations as well. And ultimately, that's just what made it such a good recommendation. So it gave people confidence that their sim would feel good and still feel good a few years down the road as these software implementations would come in. And there's a few things to talk about with this graphics card. The elephant in the room is that this graphics card is no longer going to be available. That's what we're ultimately discussing today. But people also ask about the next gen, this 50 series, also the Ti part of that graphics card. And so it's worth touching on that first off. In pretty simple terms, the Ti card is just a stronger version of that same 4070 card, same family, same generation, just a little more headroom. You're not buying anything totally different from a standard 4070 card. There's just a little bit more amplified performance, and you're giving yourself a little bit more margin so that the software that you end up running isn't constantly stressing and working itself up to the limit all of the time. So in a simulator, that margin is pretty crucial. And that extra breathing room helps to avoid that stuttering, the skipped frames, any lag that everybody wants to completely avoid in the simulated experience. And that's ultimately why this 4070 Ti graphics card worked so well for so many setups in the home simulator use. Now, I mentioned this a little while ago. Here is the reality of this graphics card. And here's why we're getting so in the weeds on this specific part. Nvidia never really comes out and says this card is discontinued, but in practice, based on sources that we have, the 4070 Ti graphics card is essentially being phased out. So as Nvidia started ramping into the next gen of software and graphics cards as a whole, production was slowed down, and ultimately this leads to the inventory being dried up, which from a solutions provider like ourselves, it just means we can't get our hands on these graphics cards anymore. And that's ultimately the part that obviously matters a great deal to us. If we can't consistently get a GPU, we can't keep building PCs around it, no matter how great the value was. You might see one pop up online from time to time, but it's not something we can responsibly base our recommendations on anymore. And a big reason why this is happening is just the broader shift in how Nvidia allocates resources and where they decide to move into production of various cards. There's basically extreme demand right now for AI, for data center hardware, and older consumer cards just naturally are going to get pushed down on the priority list. And when supply tightens, especially in a card that hits a great value sweet spot like this, the prices are only going to go up. And unfortunately, this is where people start to really feel this change. When someone looks at a simulator PC now and thinks, why is this so much more expensive than I expected? Almost every time it comes back to this graphics card. The CPUs or the processors haven't gone crazy in price. Memory and storage is pretty reasonable, and it's not too demanding in the golf simulator software environment. But this GPU is just driving a majority of the costs that you all are going to see. And there's just a lot of demand right now, from obviously golf simulations growth to gamers, creators in the YouTube space, everything happening on the AI front. All of this is pulling from the same pool. And when demand stays this strong and supply stays tight, prices don't really have anywhere to go but up. And that's ultimately why the simulator PC pricing today is feeling a little bit different than it did a few years ago, and it all comes down to that part. So now that we've gone over all of that, once you understand this, why this 4070 Ti is going away and why we're talking about it in general, this is how we're going to move forward with this situation. Instead of trying to get our hands on this hardware that might be gone the next month, we're going to roll with the punches and move on to the next gen of this RTX graphics card. And that is going to lead to two different systems that we are going to offer and recommend to our customer base. So first option is built around the RTX 5060 card. And this one is the workhorse of the bunch. It runs pretty much every brand's software smoothly. It's going to handle the modern visuals very well and give you a great experience without feeling like you're overspending on the card. For a majority of home simulators, this is going to be a great value place to be. The second option that we're going to be working into our lineup is built around the RTX 5080. And this thing is absolutely supercharged. It's the best possible experience, higher resolutions, more room for growth, more long-term confidence. And right now, the only partner that we work with that requires this card is going to be TrackMan. And that can change, obviously, as software evolves and as new platforms are released. But for people who want total peace of mind that their PC will never be the limiting factor for years to come, this is going to be the top-end option that you'd be looking for. And the most important thing with both of these options is this: we are not telling everyone to buy the biggest, most expensive PC. We're giving people clear options based on how they're actually going to use their simulator. So if you're planning a simulator build and trying to figure out what PC actually makes sense, this is the easiest place to start. We lay out both options clearly on our PC product page. We're going to drop a link right here in the description below. And if you're unsure about these setups, always feel free to reach out. We'd much rather help you build the right PC than sell you something that's more or less than what you're looking for. And we obviously want it to work right out of the box when you get that launch monitor delivered with it. So I hope this helps. This is really in the weeds. If this video was helpful, like it, leave a comment, subscribe, ask questions. We will spend a lot of time continuing to test this stuff and explaining it in the most plain English that we possibly can. And of course, always be sure to subscribe to stay tuned and stay connected as things keep changing. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.